My girlfriend's mom kept calling me temporary at family dinnings. I smiled through it. Then I bought the house they were renting. Sarah and I had been together 3 years. Her mom, Linda, never liked me from day one. I worked construction, drove a beat-up truck, wore steel-toed boots that were always covered in dust and concrete. Meanwhile, Sarah's sister, Emma, was dating some finance bro named Preston, who showed up to family events in designer suits, talking about his investment portfolio and summer home in the Hamptons. Every Sunday dinner at their place, Linda found new ways to remind me I didn't measure up. Preston just closed another 6-figure deal. What is it you do again? When I'd explain I was a project manager for a construction company, she'd nod with this tight, fake smile. Oh, that's nice. Very hands-on work. Good for people who like that sort of thing. But the absolute worst was when she'd talk about Sarah's future like I wasn't even sitting at the table. When you find someone serious, honey, you'll want a proper house in the suburbs, something with good schools nearby. Preston's been looking at properties in Westmont. Beautiful area, professional people. Then she'd glance at me with those cold eyes. Some relationships are just for learning what you don't want in life. Sarah would tell her to stop, but Linda would wave her off. I'm just being realistic, sweetheart. You're young. You don't want to settle. I never argued, never defended myself, just ate my pot roast, drank my water, and changed the subject to something neutral like the weather or whatever game was on TV. Sarah would apologize later, but I told her not to worry about it. Her mom would come around eventually, I said. I was patient. What Linda didn't know is that I'd been grinding in silence for years. I started as a laborer at 19, learned everything I could, got my certifications, moved up to foreman, then project manager. But I also had a side hustle she knew nothing about. I'd been buying rundown properties at foreclosure auctions, fixing them up myself on weekends, and either flipping them or renting them out. Built a small real estate portfolio while living cheap in a studio apartment and driving that same truck for 8 years. By the time Linda was calling me temporary, I owned 4 rental properties outright and had enough saved for more. Then I got lucky. Sarah mentioned one day that their landlord was selling the house they'd been renting for over a decade. Linda was stressed about finding a new place, worried about rent increases, complaining about the market. I just listened and nodded sympathetically. 2 days later, I contacted the landlord through my LLC, made a cash offer 15% above asking. No inspection, no contingencies, close in 2 weeks. He accepted immediately. I didn't tell Sarah until the day I got the keys. She was confused when I handed her a keychain with a little house charm. What's this? I explained as calmly as I could that her parents were now my tenants. She stared at me for 10 full seconds before she started laughing so hard she had to sit down. Linda called me that night, absolutely screaming. She'd gotten the notice that ownership had transferred. She accused me of harassment, of stalking, of trying to control their family. I let her finish, then calmly reminded her that the lease was still valid. Same terms, same rent, same everything. Just a new landlord. All completely legal. She hung up on me. The next Sunday dinner was tense. Linda barely spoke. Preston kept fidgeting with his napkin, suddenly very interested in his plate. Sarah's dad actually shook my hand when I arrived, whispered, "Well played," under his breath. We were halfway through the meal when Linda couldn't help herself. She looked at Sarah and started up again. You know, honey, when you're ready for a real future, someone stable and established. Sarah slammed her fork down. Mom, stop. But Linda kept going. I'm just saying, temporary relationships are fine when you're young, but that's when Sarah cut her off mid-sentence, her voice ice cold. Mom, he owns your house. Maybe show some respect. Linda's face went completely white.